ready to start our 2 p.m. Town Board meeting, and we'll start by rising for the Pledge of Allegiance. Diane, want to? Sure, thank you. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. And Jim, you have somebody here?
Sure.
Okay, I'll turn the meeting over to
And
you,
since
Jim.
we are one nation under God, it's important that we recognize our faith community in this town, and we recognize with us this morning, or this afternoon, the Reverend David Cook of the Calvary Baptist Church right here in Riverside. This is our neighbor. Thank you.
Let's pray. Lord, I thank you so much for this day that you've given us. I thank you so much as we prepare to celebrate the birth of this great nation tomorrow. I thank you, Lord, for this town. And I pray, Lord, as we go through the proceedings of this town board meeting, I just pray, Lord, that you would grant wisdom, that you would grant discernment in all aspects of the governing of this community. I just pray that you would help there to be civility, that you would help there to be unity in whatever decisions are made, and I pray that it would all be to your glory, and I pray this in Jesus' name.
Amen. Thank you.
Thank you.
And now I just have a few announcements. Just that the next town board meeting has been a change of time. It will be at 6 p.m., not at 2 p.m. Our Alive on 25 from the bid starts this Thursday night at 5 o'clock, and there will be 4th of July fireworks show in Grangeville Park starting at 9:15. The remaining 3 Alive on 25 dates are July 12th, 26th, and August 9th at the same times. And we thank the bid for all their hard work in coordinating this event. Couple other announcements. July 10th, from 2 to 8 p.m., the New York Blood Center is holding a blood drive at our senior center, which is located at 60 Shade Tree Lane. There's an urgent need for blood at this time, so if you can make some time to go over and donate, that would be greatly appreciated. Also, Little Flower will be hosting a First Responders Day on Thursday, July 12th, from 7:30 a.m. until 7 p.m. And all first responders are invited to the Montessori John T. Fagan campus for breakfast, lunch, or dinner, and for their appreciation for the service to our community. The North Fork Links that we have been talking about begins this weekend. This is a free shuttle service and is being provided on Saturdays starting this weekend through August 25th. And information will be posted on our social media site as well as northforknow.org, or you can download the app, which is Go North Fork. So there's a lot of good information on there. Another announcement is that our Long Island Railroad train station cleanup will take place on July 28th at 9 a.m. So I hope that you'll join me and the board members here in cleaning up and helping to replant some of the Riverhead train station. And then also one of our former employees in the audience, Hank Woodson. Hawk, sorry. Hawk.
James.
Hawk, are you here, Hawk?
He is.
Oh, hi, Hawk, how are you? And it's your 82nd birthday today?
That's right.
So we all wish you a happy birthday. So.
And he
Happy
got all
birthday,
this.
Hawk.
And Harriet's gonna lead us in the singing of happy birthday, I
And
think,
there's
right?
also, you,
Happy
say something?
birthday to you.
Happy birthday to you.
Happy birthday, dear Paul.
What's that?
Happy birthday to you.
Sorry about that, Hawk.
Well, sorry you messed up on my name, but that's all right, everybody calls me Hawk anyway. Well, I take this opportunity to thank the town board for inviting me here today, because I put in 13 years with the town, and this coming Halloween, I'll be retired from the town 22 years under the late Jimmy Stark. So I appreciate what the town board has done for me, the past town boards, and the present town board. So once again, I thank you for inviting me here today. Thank
Happy
you.
birthday.
Thank you, Hawk.
Thank you.
Happy birthday.
Thanks for joining us. Hawk comes to every town board meeting, grabs an agenda, see what's on there, comes into our offices and
then
says,
goes home.
what's this about?
And then goes home,
And
watches
then
on
goes home and
22.
watches it on TV.
Actually, I remember Hulk coming to all football games. He was a really big Blue Wave fan. I remember when I was in high school, only about 10 years ago.
Right, one other announcement, just, this Friday, July the 6th, starts the Friday night concert series, which every Friday night's a free concert. It's down, we used to have it in Grangeville Park, but because of the new development there, it's not easily accessible at this point. So we moved everything to Polonaise Park, which is right in Polish Town, 2 blocks north. It's covered, so you don't have to worry about whether it's raining or not. There's plenty of parking. So come on down. This week it's the sixties band, it's the kickoff, and we've got a whole lineup, 9 shows this year, every Friday night. So please, just bring a lawn chair, or we have chairs. If you don't have it, bring a little something to drink and eat, snack on, and have a good time. So let's start this week.
And Jim, what time does it start at?
Starts at 7.
7? Okay, very
Jim,
good.
not to kiss a death, but with weather, do you cancel, or do you
No.
reschedule, or?
That pavilion
because
is
you're
large
under the
enough to
pavilion.
keep us out of
Good.
the,
Polonaise
so there's no weather delays on this.
Okay.
Unless it's
Excellent.
lightning, and then we just have Timmy come.
Yeah, and hold up an aluminum bat.
All right, so lots of good stuff going on, so I hope that everybody will come and enjoy and come to at least one or a couple of the events or all of the events, so, looking forward to them. At this time, we would like Harriet Haas to come up, who will be singing for some patriotic songs in honor of 4th of July for us.
And everybody who's watching live, tomorrow night is Alive on 25 with the fireworks show, or Thursday night. Thursday night's Alive on 25 with the fireworks show, so we'll see you all downtown. Hello, how is everybody?
Happy birthday, all. Happy birthday. And we'll say, God bless America, land that I love. Stand beside her and guide her through the night with a light from above. From the mountains to the prairies, to the ocean, white with foam. God bless America, my home, sweet home. God bless America, my home, sweet home. And God bless Riverhead, God bless the town hall, and God bless everybody. And have a good meeting.
Thank you,
Thank you,
Harriet.
Harriet.
God bless America. He is
Thank you
Thank
very
you,
much.
Warren.
He is
At this time, I will turn, the meeting over to Diane for reports and correspondence.
Okay, under reports, tax receiver, total tax collection to date as of June 28th, $154,482,706.82. Building department June monthly report, $53,372. Town clerk June monthly report, $13,060.89. Under correspondence, there were 22 letters regarding the proposed special permit application of URT, 3 letters regarding proposed legislation regulating bamboo, 6 letters regarding the Q&E hearing for CAT. And I think that's it.
Okay, thank you very much.
I did, can you distribute the 219 minutes? I was still cleaning them up, so do you wanna do that or wait till the next time?
I think we'll wait to the next town board meeting to approve the meeting, the
Sure.
previous meeting, the minutes. So at this time, we have 2 public hearings. The first of the public hearing was supposed to begin at 2:05, it is now 2:15. So I will open the public hearing, the consideration of a special permit petition of 84 Lumber Company for the outdoor storage of lumber at 1751 West Main Street, Riverhead, New York, Suffolk County Tax Map Number 0600-118-4-10. Mr. Cuddy, did you wanna come up?
As Mr. Cuddy approaches, this is a special permit hearing. The history of the parcel, it goes back to 1993 when the town board originally approved a lumber yard. In 2015, the zoning board granted it the right through use variance to reopen, and in 2016 they filed site plan applications. The property is 1751 West Main Street. The tax map number is 0600-118-410. The current zoning is riverfront corridor. As indicated, the town board had previously in '83 approved it when it was Industrial A, which is by a special permit at that time. The property is listed as being 243,541.56 square foot in size. And as the application indicates, they're looking for permission to lift the prior condition, which did not allow for outdoor storage of lumber, and they're here to pursuant to 301, 122? 222, to expand that pre-existing non-conforming use.
Good afternoon. Charles Cuddy for the applicant. I have an office at 445 Griffin Avenue, Riverhead, New York. I join you in wishing Hawk, who I know is a special person, a happy birthday. And the good news is I don't sing. But we're here on behalf of 84 Lumber, and there's a contingent of their representatives here today. I'd just like to introduce them to you. Frank Cicero, who is the COO of 84. Bethany Seifert, who is the real estate manager. John Greenwood, who is the store manager. And also Jim Zanuck, who is their professional engineer. And they're all here because they're interested in this proceeding. 84 seeks to expand its non-conforming use, and what we're looking for is to get outside storage of lumber. And the requirement of the code that Mr. Kazakevich alluded to, 301-222, says that you must make a special permit application to do that. Interestingly enough, because we're asking for 10%, you normally could do that administratively, but we understand the need to have public input, so we certainly respect having a public hearing. As Mr. Kazakevich also indicated, this district originally was Industrial A, which permitted 30% outside storage. It's now customary for virtually all lumber yards to store material outside, and they do that because of the size of the material. They do it because they get large loads that are delivered, and in this instance, they also do it because the size of the existing buildings is relatively small, so they need to store outside. As you may know, this applicant has received DEC approval, ZBA approval, and site plan approval to reopen, and of course it reopened a while ago and is a viable operation right now. It needs to have outside storage to remain viable, and as I say, virtually all lumber yards here in Riverhead and elsewhere have outside storage. Usually the applicant in a special permit application goes through the items that you have to consider. But those items, which are, I think, 18 in number, basically are for principal uses. I think one of them, though, may be applicable, and that's probably the last one, that says that you must justify this particular application in light of the similar uses in the district. Well, if you look at the district itself and you look at that side of the road, what's really stored are cars. On the east of this site is a automobile repair shop that has cars all over the site. And if you go west, there are also other repair shops that have cars. So the cars aesthetically certainly are less pleasant than seeing small piles of lumber outside. So I think that we meet that justification requirement. I also know that the town board has the obligation to make a determination based on certain standards that are set forth in the code. And that there are 4 standards that usually you refer to. And the first one is that the use will not impair the reasonable or orderly development of the site. This site is an island unto itself. I mean, it's railroad tracks to the one side, Route 25 on the other side, vacant land on either other side of it. So the impact here is minimal. It's certainly not going to hurt any of the neighbors that are next door or any of the neighbors that are nearby. Another one of the standards is whether it's a disadvantage to the neighborhood. I don't think there's anything about storing lumber outside that's going to make this neighborhood less. Certainly, this neighborhood has already seen what the alternative is, and that is not to have 84 lumber there. And if 84 lumber is not open, you've all seen what it looked like when it was closed. So I think it's not a disadvantage to the neighborhood. Again, the health and safety and welfare of the town is not adversely affected by it. The DEC has indicated that this is an acceptable use, and so has the Zoning Board of Appeals, and so has the Planning Board. So I believe that under all the circumstances, this meets the requirements of the code, that it's in harmony with the intent of the code, and I would ask you to adopt a resolution approving this site for outside storage. Thank you.
I just have a couple questions. The DEC, has approved for the outside storage. I think I did see some correspondence
Yes.
that I didn't think was very clear. Will you be going back to the DEC for a clearer, I guess you had asked them about storing outside, I think?
We had, what happened with the DEC, and this has taken a long time. The planning board had asked us to go to the DEC again to make sure that we had approval. I wrote a letter. The letter didn't get very far, apparently, from the planning board to the DEC. 84 Lumber hired Dr. Ron Abrams, who is a DEC expert, in the sense that that's what he does for a living. He's done it all over Riverhead. He went there and got the statement that you saw, which is simply was saying that the DEC didn't have a problem with us storing lumber outside as long as we kept to their requirements, which basically was to plant the trees that we planted.
I think the DEC letter could be, it was a short email that I
Yeah.
think kind of was a bit vague. I'd like to see something written back from the DEC with a little bit clearer that you're applying for the special permit for outside storage, and that the DEC has no objection to
Well,
it.
we could do that. The reason that we didn't do it was because that requires a complete application to the DEC, and Mr. Abrams thought, knowing who he was dealing with, that they would just indicate what they did to him, and he thought, and I think some lawyers have thought that that was sufficient. I understand what you're saying, if you want us to do it.
It's a little unclear. I think if you could get something that's a little clearer, as to what it is that the applicant is wanting to do there, and the DEC to say that that's okay.
Well, we can do that, and I'm
Okay.
sure they will. Yeah.
Okay. And then one of the other questions I had, I know that there was a question, I think that the application in 83 did have 3 sides of trees, a buffer for 3 sides on the property. I think, is there 3 sides planted now or 2 sides planted now?
Well, all across the front is planted, which is a DEC requirement.
Okay,
On one side, there are trees because it's our property, meaning the east side. On the west side, yes, because that's a Long Island lighting area, I think, that is owned by a lighting company.
okay,
And so there are trees there too.
okay. They met the requirements that are stated in the I think it's the 83 covenant?
As far as I know, I'd have to look at the
Okay, you
covenant
maybe
again
just take a look.
to answer you completely.
Yeah, just take a look at that.
And I have a couple questions. Is this property within the Wild Scenic Recreational Rivers?
This property, yes, is in, and that's why we had to go to the DEC to get our approval, which we did.
Okay, but you're asking for outdoor storage now, which is a change to the original permit that was applied with the DEC, was to rehabilitate a building that had been caught on fire, correct?
Yes, we went there originally to get approval to reopen the building, yeah.
I just think that any property that's within the Wild Scenic Recreational Rivers is subject to that permit from the DEC, so I would double check on that, and I'm sure that our planning director will be checking on that also. And then, as far as the, so the screening was addressed, what is the square footage of the existing building?
The total square footage is 37,000 square feet.
Okay, so 37,000 square feet, and was there any consideration with, 240,000 square feet of lot area in building an addition onto this building so that you could accommodate some of this outdoor storage, or?
Most of the storage buildings that are built, and this is my indication from the 84 Lumber people, are not large enough to contain some of the type of things they store, even if they built other buildings. But the answer was they wasn't planning on building right now other buildings. They wanted to store, as other lumberyards do, outside.
Okay, Okay, and then as far as the, you know, the test that you went through, that was Town Law 287B, that's more specific to the zoning board of appeals, not necessarily a town board for a special permit application, so I just need to consult with council to make sure that, because it was always my impression that you had to meet all the tests of the special permit criteria in order for a special permit to be granted. So if it was an expansion of a pre-existing non-conforming use that you were applying for, then I believe that that would be a different application other than a special permit, citing the criteria that's necessary in order for that type of application to be approved. But I could be mistaken, but I would just
Well-
like to consult with either yourself
Okay.
and get your thoughts on that, or the town
Well, if you're
attorney.
there's a section that's known as 301, 312, which is the items. There are 18 different items. And I mentioned the last one because I thought that particularly had some meaning to it. It starts off saying that the site is particularly suitable for the location and use in the community. But this is a principal use that I think they're talking to. I don't think they're talking to what I would think is an accessory type of use. So that's why I didn't go through each one of them. One of the things is have adequate provisions been made for emergency conditions. This has very little to do with outside storage of lumber.
Well, unless there's a fire with the
okay.
outdoor storage, but if, I
So,
think it would.
so that's why I didn't touch each one of them, because I thought that many of them were just not relevant to what we're talking about. We certainly can do it, but I just didn't think it was necessary based on the type of application.
It's just been in my experience that you have to meet the criteria of the special permit application, which are those 18 standards that have to be
Okay,
met.
I can put in writing that we do. I didn't want to take the board's time to
Yeah.
go through 18 numbers.
I think that that would be,
Okay, I'll be
recommended.
happy to do that.
Okay. So we're going to leave it
Any
open
other
to
questions
public
from the
comment.
board?
No, I can tell you, I appreciate the site work that has been done and the cleanup that's been done on that property. You're right.
Thank you.
Every lumberyard stores their lumber outside, so this thing is pretty benign to it.
So at this time, I'd ask anybody from the public if they have any comments or questions, if they would come up now just come up to the podium.
Well, Warren McKnight, Riverhead.
Warren, I'm just gonna ask you if you swear the testimony about to give the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth.
I do.
Thank
okay.
you.
Warren McKnight, Riverhead. As we all know, and we all lived in Riverhead, we've seen other buildings that were closed that just went into demise. Judge Balfour's Inn, the Suffolk Theater was a disgrace until Mr. Castaldi came. The restaurant across from the railroad was a disgrace, but 84 Lumber maintained their property, and they maintained it, not perfectly. I used to see kids who were climbing over the fence from time to time, because I drive around. My job requires me to drive around. But I want to thank them, and then thank them for coming back to Riverhead and providing the business again. But not many businesses would maintain the property after it was closed, and I just thought I wanted to thank them, and people should realize that. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, Warren.
Is there anybody else that would like to come up? Seeing nobody, I will close the public hearing, but leave it open for written comment until Friday, July 13th. What's it? Happy birthday. And now we have our second public hearing. It was supposed to start at 2:10. It is now 2:30. It's a consideration of a proposed local law to amend the code of the town of Riverhead to add a chapter 225 entitled Environmental Quality Review.
Want to make a few comments?
Yes.
Yeah,
Do you want Jeff to come up also?
For those who've followed the town board since January, you would know that there was a tri-board meeting earlier in the year, and a lot of discussion of the tri-board meeting focused on seeker and how seeker principles interacted when different agencies in the town of Riverhead were dealing with applications. The interaction between the planning board and town board, the interaction between the town board and planning board and zoning board. And there was a lot of discussion that focused on that, including how the seeker statute should come into play. As a result, there was a request to look into establishing a statute, which is a new chapter 225 Environmental Quality Review, those who, kind of watched this for a long time, it's actually not a new chapter. In 1977, under the old code, there was Chapter 61, which is also entitled Environmental Quality Review. So we're going full circle, I guess, in a way. That statute was repealed, and what the board is looking to do is to reestablish this statute. We looked across the river at Southampton. We know that they've had a statute that's similar to what's being proposed today on the books for some time. It's working. This would allow individuals who are coming to the town of Riverhead to kind of understand the process that's been undergone by the town de facto, so it's now putting it into writing. And it's establishing type 1 type actions, type 2 unlisted, which the state statute allows a municipality to do if they choose to, so they can characterize certain actions differently. And we're looking to add this chapter 225 to the code, and looking for your comment back.
If there's anybody from the audience that would like, is any comments from the town board first? No? Okay, if anybody from the audience would like to come up and address the board on this?
Good afternoon, hello.
No.
Bob, do I need to do anything?
No, I was
Okay.
waiting for the special permit hearing.
Very good. Martin Sanluski, Riverhead. In reading this, from what I understand, this is actually, this secret is already in effect, and it is enforced by the town under state law.
That's correct.
So this is just really, it's a town code that supplements and sort of dovetails in with SECR, I presume. If that's the case on 225-2 purpose, I don't think that paragraph is accurate, because it says that is to implement for the town of Riverhead the provisions of the State Quality Review Act, which already are part of law. I think it should say implement for the town of Riverhead instead of the supplemental local provisions to the state environmental law. Because you're not, by doing this, you're not implementing the SECR, it already exists. You're actually putting in a supplement, and that's reinforced by the very last sentence on the page that says that any agency must comply with SECR Part 617 and this chapter. So this is separate from SECR, it's just supplemental. I think it's just a footnote. But what I really am concerned about is under 225-5, the applicability. I think that the first, you only have one paragraph under there. You don't have any sub-paragraphs. I think that paragraph should become a sub-item A, and I would really like the town board to consider a sub-item B that says that chapter
I'm sorry, for 225, for which, 225, 5?
225-5 applicability. You only have like one statement, which the first one, is just a statement. It could be noted item A, but item B, and this refers to applicability, which I think is important. Would the board consider a provision that would make this chapter, specifically 225, applicable to applications that are submitted after the date of this adoption? Because I have a couple of applications pending.
I think that is addressed later on in here, where it says, when effective, the chapter shall take effect immediately upon filing in the office of the Secretary of State in accordance with 27, the municipal home rule.
Okay.
It did address it.
Okay, so does that mean, though, specifically that then it becomes effective, but what happens if there's an application pending? It's effective before the application's approved. Does it change?
There are application steps in here for the process, so if you pass that that part of the process, because I believe it's when the application and determination of the lead agency, and then after the determination of the lead agency, I believe you have 20 days to then determine, let's see, I believe it's the environmental significance has to be determined after 20 days.
Okay.
So it does limit it already by the days. So
Okay.
if the determination is already made, you're not gonna go back and change what you've already established.
Okay,
Right, Bob, that would be correct?
Has there been a secret determination on the
Well-
application that you're concerned about?
no, I'm sort of gonna get to that a little bit next, because, but since you brought it up, I'll jump ahead a little bit.
But this is really determining how it's listed, whether it's type 1, type 2, or unlisted, so.
Understood.
Okay.
However, one of the things that I really, really urge the board to do, and the town to do, is to take this opportunity to dovetail this with site plan review. And I'll tell you why. Currently, what happens with site plan review is the planning staff, there's a site plan checklist. And they require you to submit everything in the checklist to accept an application. Everything, elevations, floor plans, the whole deal. That is so over the top in terms of what you need to get a determination as to the type of action. I would hope that the board would consider a preliminary application, like when we have our preliminary pre-application meeting, that they make a determination as to the type of action then. The reason being is that when you make that determination prior to the full application, you know, the formal application, you would only need like maybe 6 copies of the application, because if it's type 2, it does not require referral to every agency on the globe. And right now, every application, doesn't matter, no matter what it is, I gotta submit 15 copies. We don't know when they're referred to other agencies. I talk to a lot of other agencies, they don't even know why they're being referred on a lot of this stuff. They say, yeah, we keep getting the same plan like 6 times over from the town of Riverhead, because every time they ask somebody to resubmit something, they send it out to everybody, and that's not even the way SECRE's supposed to work. They're supposed to get one bite at the apple. You do the referral, they have 30 days. You declare the intent.
Well, that's just for the attention of lead agency.
Right, well, that's,
So
no,
once lead
it's the
agency
intent
is
of lead
determined.
agency, plus they have the 30 days comment period. That's when they have the time to comment. After that, when the comments come back, you're then ready for public hearing and then final approval. So it would really, like, especially on type 2 actions, it would just make the process so much simpler and so much more streamlined. I think it would be a very good thing to do. If they determine it's a type 1 or an unlisted action, then you would submit the full amount of copies for a full referral, and you would also submit probably the long EAF as opposed to the short part 1. So it would have a big effect on the actual application. I'll give you an example. I have a project we submitted, 15 copies of everything, I mean a stack of paper this high. It's reviewed by the planning staff. Well, we've got a few issues. There were a couple of things grammatical that had to be changed. We had one name wrong on one application versus the other. We didn't have a lighting plan. Why we need a lighting plan to start just reviewing what type of action it is beyond me, but we had to do all the engineering. We give it to the town, and they say, well, it's still incomplete. You got more things to do. I said, great, can I get this back and I can go through it and supplement it? No, once you submit it, we can't give it back to you. So there's a whole pile of paper that's just wasted, gone, garbage, a lot of trees dead, okay? If there's a way to take this and look at your site plan application and review process, I like what you're doing, because especially on a part 2, we're gonna come down with an application that it's part 2. Part 2 under SECRET doesn't even require a referral to other involved agencies. The only time it would be, for example, Suffolk County Planning requested, I believe, referrals within 500 feet of a road or something. There's a couple of other agencies that have requested referrals, so if they request a referral, fine. But if it's a type 2, it doesn't have to go to Suffolk County Health, Suffolk County Planning, DOT, DPW, and all of these people, Suffolk County Water. They don't really need to see it, and yet we keep having to submit all this paperwork, and it's just very cumbersome. This gives you an opportunity to look at that and say, hey, let's make it easy. If it's a type 2, realistically at that point, a type 2 could be approved really in about 3 months, which is what it should be.
So, how do you know whether it's a type 1, type 2, or unlisted unless you get a complete scoping of the application?
You don't need a complete scope. What you would do with a preliminary application would be a preliminary site plan per zoning. Okay, because you gotta look at your zoning, make sure you meet all the zoning requirements and to use, okay? And then the person in the town who's in charge of reviewing that, making that determination, then goes by SECRET and says, okay, it's a type 1, or it's an unlisted, or it's a type 2. And
So
the criteria is in SECRET as to what the benchmark is for those classifications.
Go ahead.
So then, what if the application changes during the process and it's determined that, your 30,000 square foot building that you're proposing for retail turns into being a brewery where it would have an environmental impact because of the waste of the byproduct? So how would we know exactly what the uses are being proposed, whether or not special permits are necessary, variances are necessary, unless we saw a complete application? But I think
we're gonna have Jeff. Mr. Murphy, would you just come up and address some of this?
Because I think that, you know, when an application is submitted, a complete application is submitted, a short environmental assessment form is submitted, and then the application is looked at very thoroughly to determine whether or not it's a type 1, type 2, or unclassified, and then, you know, an EIS or a, you know, expanded, a full environmental assessment form may be necessary rather than a short environmental assessment form, so.
Right, but I would think that the type of action is very readily, you can determine that very readily, very early on in the process.
That's why in here we have the planning department would be the clearinghouse for determining lead
And
age.
that's
But
great.
I'll have Mr. Murphy come up and, if he would like to
I
address
have a couple of
it.
other quick items, you want me to finish?
Go right ahead,
first?
finish up and then.
And with that said, the item, when I was concerned about what would apply, I really gotta look then down at the, on the page that has, the classification of type 1 actions, 22511, type 1 actions. You're adding a lot of type 1 actions here that I don't understand why you're adding them, because they seem to be very, very, a little bit over the top. For example, parking, you talk about if somebody has parking of 50 cars or more, it's a type 1 action. I mean, that's a 150-seat restaurant. Under the secret code, it's 1,000 cars makes it a type 1 action. And you're making it 50. You're making it 20 times more restrictive than seeker. There's nothing in seeker with regard to hotel rooms and residential units that you have in here, but in a town with under 150 people population, if you're connected to sewer, it's 250 residential units, and if you're not, it's 50, and you're making it 20. That's really restrictive compared to what SECRA has as far as their requirements. Also, expansion of non-conforming uses. Under SECRA, they talk about an expansion of a pre-existing building that exceeds 50% of the threshold, and in town of Riverhead's population, the threshold is 100,000, so an expansion would be 50,000. As I think before, they were talking about under the current rule, you can expand a non-conforming use up to 10% or something like that. You're taking that away. You're saying if somebody wants to expand, they've had a business for 100 years and they want to put a little 12 by 12 room outside for another piece of equipment they need, they're a type 1 action. That seems a little bit restrictive. And then lastly, I don't understand why you have a provision in here with regard to 225-10, which is critical areas. It seems like this is like a real overreach by the town. And the reason it's a real overreach is open-ended. Number one, you say that from time to time, you can designate something a critical area.
Yeah,
And then you
from time to
reserve the
time,
right
I've
to
never seen that.
declare areas critical, but you reserved it. You haven't declared any now. You just said, in the future, we may do that. Well, critical areas in environmental review, that's what SECRET is. So you're actually, stepping over and above that, and it's a moving target. I would like to think that 22510 just get eliminated from this revision altogether, because it just seems like an overreach. It seems like it gives the town the opportunity to declare an area as a critical area, so that you can then go back to the previous page and go to the area that talks about those environmental under the types of actions. Any area that's in an environmental area becomes a type 1. So you could say, you know what, this really doesn't matter what it is. If you want to, you could say, we're going to declare it an environmental area. Now it's a type 1. Now we can POSDEC it. Because type 2, you cannot POSDEC a type 2. Type 2 is not a POSDEC. Type 2 goes through. Those applications should be simple, and they should be subject to a POSDEC. So I just think there's a lot of overreach here, number one. And number two, I really think the town should take an opportunity to look at the site plan application and approval process, dovetail it with SECR a lot better than it is now, so it would be good for everybody. It'd be better for the town as well as the applicants.
Thank you.
I see what you're saying with this critical areas. I mean, it would be one thing if there was a map that it referred to that identified critical areas within the town, but it can't just be arbitrary.
Right. It's open-ended. Right now, it's like we may, from time to time, say this is critical areas. They talk about historic districts being critical areas possibly, and that, you know, back in the day when the historic districts were being adopted, Richard Wines was here, and I got up and I said, this is a wolf in sheep's clothing. And I said, no, we're not looking to restrict anything. This is all just, you know, we could get, you know, funds for, you know, historical buildings. Well, guess what? Now it's a historical area. Now it could be a type 1 if it's, you know, considered to be environmental. For whatever reason, a historical area would be environmental. So it just, the regulations just keep building up and building up and building up, okay? And I think when you adopt this, aren't you supposed to eliminate like 20 regulations? Isn't that the deal? Anyway, thank you.
Did you wanna address that one?
Just one response to the CEA, the question of critical environmental areas. We could delete it. It's really kind of a non-issue because the state statute allows the town from time to time to designate critical environmental areas. So this is something we can do. The town would go to public hearing just as they would here in order to hear from the public whether an area should be designated as CEA. So whether we delete it or not address it, the underlying statute, the state legislation allows the town to do this.
But it seems that the way this is written, and then with the type 1 actions list, it seems to me like it's a backdoor way to take something and say it's in an environmental area and backdoor it and make it a type 1 action relative to a specific application, not to a specific environmental area. To me, I'm concerned how it affects an application. You can, you know, designate an area environmental, that's fine. But when you designate it environmental and then it then has an impact on a pending application that can then be backdoored into a type 1 and then be pos-decked, I think that's unfair.
Yeah, I mean, I don't think that's gonna happen. I think the history of this town
It
shows
won't
that
if
it's
you take it
not. And in fact, there's been challenges from time to time dealing with this issue, and I think the town would have to do the study, would have to analyze something to determine it's a CEA, and do it. But I mean, that's up to the board whether you wanna redact that from the code or not. I don't think it makes much of a difference in how ultimately a CEA would get designated by the town. This is something they could add later, go to public hearing and designate a particular area as a critical environmental area. It's clearly allowed by state law.
Yeah, it just seems open-ended because it ties into the type 1.
I strongly disagree because I think you still have to establish the criteria to create the CEA. But that's, again, a board decision.
Mr. Murphy, did you just wanna come up and address about the site plan?
Good afternoon, Jefferson Murphy, Building and Planning Administrator. There's a lot of confusion being expressed between the site plan submission requirements and what's required for SECRA. This law has nothing to do with the submission requirements for a site plan application. A lot of times we get applications that are incomplete, they're missing information. An application under SECRA, the designation as a type 1 or type 2 or an unlisted action, those are spelled out under SECRA. And the procedure and process for that is spelled out under SECRA. An application that's incomplete is incomplete. It's apples and oranges. The process for SECRA classification and the submission requirements for our site plan application are separate and distinct. Now, if we were to submit a referral for a type 1 or unlisted action that requires a referral to an involved agency, and we referred out an incomplete application, that exposes to the town. And we've seen that in other applications where we sent out adopted laws, for example, that did not get the proper referrals. Procedure is everything. If you do something procedurally incorrect, you're exposing the town. So if we send out an application that is deficient of information and we get the information after SECRA determination has been made, that is a procedural defect, and we don't want to do that to the town. We cannot do that. That would be, it not only exposes the town, it exposes the applicant as well, and could further delay his application. So, yes, sometimes we get accused of being picayune. Some people don't like the 10-page letters, but I gotta tell you, it's not a question of whether or not it's right or wrong. The question is it accurate and is it correct? And so we like to, yes, we are slow in the town, we'd like to be faster. But we try to be as accurate as we can to be fair to the applicant. That's what this law tries to do. It tries to make it more transparent as to what the process is for SECRA between involved agencies. A lot of times you see an application for a special permit, a site plan, and also a variance. And this spells out that there's going to be coordination between the 3 boards and all the other involved agencies as well. So if there's a question as to the nature of a site plan in terms of a checklist, that goes through my office. Be happy to speak with any applicant about it. but this law has nothing to do with the submission requirements under our site plan.
Do you think there's any validity to the claim that, an application is submitted and it's reviewed and it is determined that, you know, you wanna see this parking space over here instead of this parking space over here, so then they resubmit a revised site plan, 14 copies of the, you know, change in location of the parking spot, and then that gets sent out again to all the involved agencies to read in? Do you think that it makes sense to submit either so that we're not killing trees all over the place by submitting 15 copies every time there's a small change to a site plan? Do you think that it would make sense to require less upfront until a complete review, or until the application is complete, and then once the application is complete and everything's been addressed, then send it out? Or do you think that will delay the process?
We try not to do the referrals until we get a complete application. Some of the things are mandatory in terms of what is shown on an application. Some of them are discretionary. You know, we think the circulation can be made improved, what have you. That's a discretionary. But if it's something that's a mandatory checklist and it's procedurally incorrect, we try not to do the referrals until we get that information, so the information is accurate that we send out to the involved agencies.
So there's not a number of, every submission doesn't get sent out to all the involved agencies?
One of the things that we actually encourage is that, when we send out one of our letters, 10-page letters, that says everything that's included with an application, what we frequently do is invite the applicant just to submit one copy to us, so we can go through that one copy and see if they've addressed everything. So we don't need 15 copies. If you've seen our office, we're swimming in paperwork. We don't need more paperwork. We like trees, so we invite applicants just to submit one copy to us. So, and I do this all the time, Karen does it all the time, Greg does it all the time. Just submit one copy to us, and if we go through, and what we also do is we typically send out the letters as a Word document to the applicants, so they can use that as a cut and paste, so we go through the checklist. Yes, we've addressed this, it's on sheet so-and-so. Please see note on page 3, so-and-so, so that we know that they've looked at it, they know that they've looked at it, so we try to eliminate the amount of paperwork that's submitted to us. Don't need it.
Thank you very much.
I got just something that Marty's, the type 1 actions for the purpose of the chapter, Marty pointed some inconsistencies with what the state requires as to what the town's asking. I know you were probably part of drafting this, I guess?
There was a whole committee, went through co-committee.
Okay, what was the reasoning behind motel, hotels, complexes of more than 20 units, or parking fields, and, I mean, it does seem a little paperwork issue.
It is more onerous on those applications, and those are the ones that we felt that warrant mandatory review and coordinating review to the other agencies. Right now, some of these are not a type 1 actions. For example, motel, it's probably unlisted action that may or may not warrant coordinated review. If we saw 20 units or more, we probably would require coordinated, or would recommend to the board that require coordinated review, because it's going to generate a certain amount of traffic, for example. It could have more concern regarding aesthetics. All this does is it makes it more clear as to what the application would be. The parking field, that's associated with a certain number, of Marty said, so that in itself could warrant that would be a type 1 that would require, and typically for a restaurant, it's either gonna be a 58 or you're downtown. I don't see any place else that you would see a 150-seat restaurant. 50 parking a use that's gonna take up 50 parking spaces in your downtown, I think you'd wanna coordinate that review and see what the impacts are gonna be of that use. It's not just the parking and the traffic, it's all the other uses, things are gonna go along with it. So that's the one thing, it's not just type 1 in terms of parking that's concerned, it's all the other things that other agencies would have to review as well. Sanitary, the garbage disposal, the waste disposal, the water usage, that sort of thing. And if it's in the downtown, it's in a historic district, now it needs to go to landmark. So what that would do is just it mandates that we coordinate with all these different agencies.
Which is why I think it's important under 22510, where it says critical areas of environmental concern will be designated from time to time by resolution of the town board in accordance with provisions of subdivision 14G of part 617. And then under B, under that same chapter, it says, the following have been designated by the town board as critical areas of environmental concern. And B1 says reserved. That's why I think it's important that we depict these critical areas ahead of time before this legislation is adopted, to not be considered arbitrary and capricious.
I have a question for Bob. To be designated as a critical area, does that require a public hearing before the board?
It should have probably said local law. I mean, again, if the board wants to, it's ultimately your decision as the policymakers, if you want to delete that provision and then simply rely upon state legislation. That is a decision the board can make. And you can also do what Marty asked you to do, which is to do a side-by-side comparison on what type 1 actions are listed here and what the state statute says under 617.4, and see whether you feel comfortable with what was designated and came out of code committee.
Yeah,
We're here for public hearing.
Yeah,
This can be
yeah.
revised. True.
So even though it seems like it's open-ended here, that is something that requires a further action by this board. And if this is done by local law, and again, I'm not a lawyer, I believe that would require a public hearing, because you're making a change to the code.
Well, I think it should have said local law instead of resolution, so. But again, that's up to the board, whether they want to excise this at this point in time and rely upon the state statute.
As Bob said, it's there anyway, so if for purpose of redundancy or reducing redundancy, you could eliminate it. It's still there though.
You always have the ability to designate a critical environmental area.
But it would probably be by public hearing, not by resolution,
Well, I think
correct?
you're gonna have to substantiate the reason why you're doing it anyway. You can't pull something out of thin air.
And then, this was also supposed to be, I know that you were looking at Southampton's supplemental SECRA regulations. So, is everything that's in here what was in Southampton's, or you pulled and added and?
No, we amended it because they had certain critical identified areas that we do not have. For example, the areas that are under the review of the Shinnecock Indian Nation are listed in there. Significant environmental archaeological areas that are within Southampton, we don't have. So there is a difference between what they have and what we're proposing.
But they do list their critical areas.
They do.
They do.
Okay, thank you.
I just wanted to add one thing, because the way I may have put it out there may have been a little bit confusing. I agree with absolutely everything that was, noted by Jeff with regard to, their staff is great, very helpful, we'll sometimes submit one copy and all that. What I'm talking about is the very distinct difference in SECRA as a type 1 and an unlisted action, at which point everything that he said is absolutely right on, versus a type 2 action. Under SECRA, the very first step under SECRA is to determine if the action is subject to SECRA. And if it's a type 2 action, you don't have to do anything anymore. You could just review their site plan in-house and approve it, period. What I'm concerned with the town is, and if you're gonna do this, take an opportunity to say, okay, type 2 actions, okay? First of all, I don't like the list being increased as much as it is, but a type 2 action, okay, it's good to do referrals to certain agencies that request it. Type 2 action doesn't even require a referral under SECRA in the state of New York. It doesn't require that. It doesn't gotta go to anybody. You don't even have to have a public hearing. If you could declare it type 2, you could, let's say, look at the site plan and say, yeah, the site plan's good, approved. That's what I'm talking about. I'm talking about the distinct, and that's one thing that the town has not done, is the town basically, right now, every application upon you go through the site plan application and the way it's submitted, every application is submitted the same way. The type of action could be determined before, like with a preliminary application, and then that will affect the actual application, the copies and all of that, after that determination is made. And the type 2 actions, the site review and the referral, can be and should be very different and very much more limited than a type 1 and an unclassified. That's what I'm referring to. I'm not talking about the process, like Jeff said, with the copies and referral and all the help that they give us. And it's gotta be right, absolutely. Procedure is, paramount to the state when it comes to SECRA review, okay? And that's all great, type 1 unlisted. But type 2, early, could we add a step? Could we have a preliminary review, declare the type of
Well, a
action?
determination has to be, I'll have Jeff come up, but a
Yeah.
determination has to be made one way or the other. If you're determining something to be a type 2, you're saying it's not a type 1 and not an unlisted.
Correct.
So a determination has to, and that's,
Right.
that's what this is doing, is it's making a determination on secret, so the applicant knows upfront what the determination
Correct.
is when lead agency is chosen. So I'll have Jeff come
But
up and-
that could be done without a quote-unquote full site plan application. In other words, I think.
I'm gonna have Mr.
Right.
Murphy come up and
Okay.
address
Thank
that.
And my concern with that, Marty, would be that the information that's given is such a small amount of information that a determination can't be made, and my concern would be that if a determination is made, that it's a type 2 or an unlisted action, and then this full site plan comes in, how do we reverse that to turn it into a type 1 if what we're getting is completely different than what happened in the preliminary application?
So let, Mr. Murphy, go ahead.
Jeff, that question was for you.
Okay, you're absolutely correct in what you just said, absolutely, and I agree with you 100%. We do have differences in our site plan process, and just to give you a couple of examples, our farm stand law, totally separate site plan process than all the other site plan applications. And 9 times out of 10, those are classified as a type 2 action under secret. It's on the list. But under site plan, even under the farm stand law, it still gets referred out to different agencies. It could be referred to the State Highway Department. It could be referred to the Farmland Committee. I can tell you right now, the town engineer reviews them. So under that, doesn't get referred out in terms of secret, but it gets referred out under our site plan process for farm stands.
We've also increased in this resolution, increased the type 2 actions to make it
Correct.
clearer for people coming in.
And another example of a difference in our site plan process is the administrative site plan process. If you're proposing a 4,000 square foot or less addition to a building, or less than 4,000 doesn't meet any other thresholds, we try to get this to be administrative rather than the full site plan application, in which case it may or may not require a public hearing. Under the code, it does not require a public hearing. But it still gets referred out to all the involved agencies pursuant to site plan, not necessarily SECRA, but site plan. So we are trying to streamline the process in those areas where there's a smaller application. We just try. That's the best we can do. Every application is unique, everyone's looked at on a case-by-case basis, but what we're trying to do with this law is to provide some sense of continuity and transparency in terms of what we're looking for and what applicants can expect. If they have any questions about any of that, I'm at my desk.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you.
Anybody else wanted to comment?
Yeah, I just. And so, in a type 1 action,
Did you need Jeff?
new residential apartments, condominiums, or conversions to residential apartments of 20 units or more. So, if you have a residential apartment building and you wanna turn it into a condominium, then that would be considered a type 1 action?
Did you wanna address this to Jeff?
Yeah, Jeff?
Jeff, with just a couple more questions?
We were
So-
talking to you for like 5 minutes here.
So, in
There we go.
addition to the type 1 actions that's required under the State Environmental Quality Review Act, I see on here that you have conversions to residential apartments, condominiums, or cooperatives of 20 units or more. So, if there was an apartment building that was a residential apartment building, and they wanted to convert that into a condominium or a co-op, you're saying that that would be a type 1 action?
Yes.
And how do you justify that, when there's really no impact from changing it from a residential apartment to a condominium or a co-op?
Well, it could have been an office building.
Well, it doesn't say that. It
But
says
Conversion to residential apartments. It
Okay,
could
so
have
then
been
it should say conversions from office space to residential apartments, condominiums, or cooperatives.
Well, it could be anything. It could be a warehouse, it could be a box store on 58. So it could be a retail.
I don't
So-
know, I think it just needs to be clearer on
Okay.
number 8, because if you have a residential, apartment building and you wanna convert it to a condominium building, I don't see why that would be classified as a type 1.
No, it's not. It's conversion, residential apartments, condominiums, or cooperatives are 20. Conversion to residential apartments, condominiums, cooperatives. It's
Right.
just, it's residential, you could say residential condominiums, residential cooperatives. It's those 3 categories.
Understood,
I'll
but
get
if
you
you're
more
converting it
clarification.
from a residential apartment to a condominium, you'd be subject to a type 1 under this law.
I'll get some more clarification.
I'm not reading that. Okay, yes.
Yeah, because anything could go as a conversion, whether it's an apartment house or an
Right.
office building. The conversion to create 20 units or more would cause that action to take place.
But you'd already be approved, because you're not converting something. If you're already residential apartment building and you wanted to become a condominium or a co-op, you're not converting it. You're not converting anything to something else, but clarification, it would be fine.
Yeah, I agree. A lot of this, I think, is, in rereading it and listening to what the public speakers have said, I think it's an overreach of government, a lot of it.
Well, you need to foster coordinated reviews, I get it, so I think it just needs to be cleaned up, that's all.
All right. Any other questions? No, seeing none. I will close the public hearing, but leave it open for written comment until Friday, July 13th. All right, now I will move for a first and second to close the town board meeting and go into the CDA meeting.
I move we go into the CDA meeting.
First and second vote, please.
Second?
Diane?
Kent,
Yes.
Hubbard,
Yes.
Giglio,
Yes?
Wooten,
Yes.
Jen Smith.
Yes.
The CDA meeting is now open.
She's not.
Okay. All right, so that is resolution number 8.
Adopts amendment to rules and procedures of the Riverhead Community Development Agency for designation of a person, firm, or corporation as a qualified and eligible sponsor pursuant to Article 15 of the General Municipal Law.
I second. So first and second. Vote, please.
Kent,
I vote against this, and I urge my council members to vote against this. I think it's important that we get the, financial documents needed for this, large business deal. This is a very important deal to our town. And actually, I was surprised at the work session with so much pushback, with a deal that's so important. Makes me think of the, line from Hamlet, "The lady doth protest too much, methinks." I think that you guys know that it's the right thing, that we vote on this, and that we should be receiving these financial documents, and I hope that you'll follow through with those feelings.
You know what, though, before we do this, and I always forget this, is there anybody from the audience that wants to comment on this resolution before we vote on it?
Yes, my name is Richard Amber. I'm Executive Director of the Long Island Pine Barren Society here in Riverhead. Those of us who have been around for a while on this, and this doesn't apply specifically to this group of people, but over the last 20 years, proposal after proposal has been brought forward, and so far as I can tell, none of them have worked out. And I've heard a couple times in conversations that this town board has not, or past town boards have not required the maximum information that would allow you to determine the fiscal capacity of an organization that has brought a proposal forward. I would think the fact that you've never done that before, not that you have, but the town board hasn't done it before, actually contributes to a lack of success of some of the projects before. This is the biggest one ever to come before the town board. I know all of you want to do what's right for the people of Riverhead. So it is just completely incomprehensible to me why you would want any less than the maximum information that you can to make the best informed decision. This is the biggest, this is the most significant decision that you folks will ever make. The people of Riverhead will be affected profoundly for all of the future. So I can't understand an argument that said we would prefer to proceed with less information than is available. I urge you strongly to look at all of the information that you have in front of you, all the fiscal information. Whether they are obliged to provide it as a private organization is not interesting to me. You're the people who represent the people of the town of Riverhead, and I think the implications for EPCAL go way beyond the borders of Riverhead. But I can't imagine you're voting to make this decision with less information on the fiscal integrity of this organization to do something very big, very ambitious, and possibly disastrous. I urge you all to require the applicant to give you all of the information that he can and to make the most informed decision about the biggest choice that you guys are ever gonna make.
Thank you.
Thank you, Dick, and I wanna reiterate, I can't imagine, with a deal of this magnitude, that we would move forward without seeing all of the financial documents. I mean, certainly as a resident and as a representative from the government, I'm not willing to accept that.
I'm sorry, just one point. It's not that you cannot reach an informed decision either for or against this project. You will have a chance to do that, but you'll want to do it with the most information available.
Is there anybody else that wanted to comment? Seeing nobody, I have a first from Catherine, I'll second the resolution.
Well, no, it's been first, it's already been
It's
voted on.
already been
Come on to
done
the
and
next
voted
vote.
on.
No,
Catherine
this,
voted on it.
Well, first, because I
voted.
started to vote.
okay, first, no,
and
started
then-
the vote, sorry,
and then-
okay. So to just continue the vote then.
So Catherine, yours was a
No.
Hubbard,
No.
Giglio,
I just wanna say that I think that this is, it's not wise to change the rules in the middle of the game. This is not having to do with a single applicant or an application. This is having to do with changing the CDA rules altogether. We have been informed by our outside counsel on numerous of occasions by request of the supervisor as to how this should be done. And the town attorneys have told us that this should be done in a resolution either to approve or disapprove the qualification and eligibility of this particular applicant. This resolution right here changes the rules for anybody that comes in the future that has to do with an asset of property that doesn't require them to submit the information when the information is available. And that goes to publicly traded companies where the information is available. So the town has sold off a lot of assets. The town has ventured to try and sell this property on numerous occasions, including Riverhead Resorts that did submit all of the financial information, and that project failed. So I think that there has been a lot of financial information that has been submitted on a particular application, but this is not addressing a particular application. This is changing the rules that we don't need any of the financial information for any application, for any town asset that's being sold, and for that reason, I'm voting no.
Wooten,
Well, I can tell you, of course, I'm glad that Catherine agrees with us that it should be a no. My whole thing is that I normally, I don't know what generated this or who drafted this. I think timing's everything, but I also think, that resolutions should have some sort of consensus on the board before they're even introduced. I mean, I don't like to support resolutions that I know I don't have support on the floor for, because then it's a moot point. So, I'm a little bothered by the fact that it's even in the packet, but I will vote no for the fourth vote, no.
Jen Smith,
Well, the reason that this resolution is here is because the board has expressed that they are not interested in seeing the financial documents that are listed in the qualified and eligible hearing that was adopted on June sixth, I believe, of 2018, when the amendment for the qualified and eligible hearing, which we had already accepted the letter of intent, were changed. So this is also being changed during that process. So it was several board members that said that they were not interested in seeing all of these documents that our town financial person came up and said were not provided through us. So this gives the opportunity for you to not request those documents. And, you know, you're voting no, so I'm not sure if that means you are requesting these documents or you're not. As far as public versus private, I think that argument kind of makes no sense to me, because you're saying if somebody's a public traded company, they have to provide their financials, but if they're not a public traded financial company, then we can just waive it and not have to see their private financial statements, including the pro forma statement, which is the statement that says what they project to do at the project. We're in an urban renewal zone, this is a qualified and eligible hearing, we have a contract that has an intended development plan. The intended development plan calls for a certain amount of build-out, for maintenance of the runway, and all of that would require some sort of funding, as well as the upgrade of the sewer and the upgrade of the water. And that is well beyond the $40 million purchase price. We have seen nothing at all for a pro forma statement for what this project is going to cost, whether it's the applicant now, or the next applicant, or the applicant after that, or another piece or another parcel of property. And I think it's imperative that we do see the financial wherewithal of anybody coming in to purchase a town asset. So this application is in here because there's been expression amongst several board members that have said that they don't require it. This gave you the opportunity to not require it. I vote no on this because I feel that they should be required, and I hope by you voting no on this, that you would require to see these financial documents off also. So I vote no.
Okay,
Well, that was nice.
CDA resolution number 8 is not
Resolution
adopted.
that nobody agrees with.
It gave you the opportunity to waive the financials that
I
you were
don't
just
need
in
it.
doing.
The town attorneys have told us
Right.
that we're not waiving them. It's whether or not.
Not requiring them.
No, we have broad discretion as to whether or not the material that's been submitted is adequate. And that's what we have to weigh as a board, but the outside counsel has said that we're not waiving anything. It's what we are
But
saying, whether or not we can accept it.
Our own financial administrator said that they have not given us any of these documents. So it's not a matter of seeing them or not seeing, they haven't given us any of them. So you're making a basis.
I disagree with you.
I make a motion,
I'm gonna go with our financial administrator.
I make a motion, we close the CDA meeting and reopen the town board meeting.
Thank you. Yes, I'll second.
First and seconded, vote please. Did you say to reopen also the town board meeting?
Reopen the town
Okay.
board meeting.
First and seconded, vote please.
Who seconded?
I second it.
Okay, sorry. Kent?
Yes.
Hubbard?
Yes.
Giglio?
Yes.
Wooten?
Yes.
Jen Smith?
Yes.
The town board meeting is now reopened.
At this point, I ask anybody up who would like to come and comment on any of the resolutions in the packet to please come up.
Sal Mastropolo, Calverton. Resolution 518. This begs a lot of questions. There's a big difference between a call-in clerk and a part-time employee. And it has to do with benefits. And it has to do with when the clock starts. Because if this part-time employee becomes a full-time employee, I think the clock starts when she became a part-time employee. And you need to look at vacations, and you need to look at sick time and holidays. So,
Agreed, but the reason for this is because the call-in employee was working more hours and needed to be over an extended length of time. So for the call-in clerk is only can work so many weeks. And we realized that we needed somebody more than that because there was somebody that was transferred out of this department. And so this is to fulfill the needs of the department.
all right, just so you understand that there's a big difference between the two.
Yes.
I mean, the way this thing is written, it's just a name change. No, it's not just a name change. It's a change in future benefits and future expenses.
But we also need to meet the needs of the office itself, so.
Okay. 523. Other towns have car washes that recycle the water. Is there any thought given to requiring this particular individual to recycle water rather than send it to the sewer system?
We can add that as part of secret as it goes through.
That will be reviewed under secret as to how they're gonna dispose of the water.
Okay. 524. We're filing a second publish and post notice.
Yes.
Are we gonna bill the applicant for the cost of the second publish and post notice, since he failed to post notices for the first meeting?
Do we do that, Bob, or how do we do
We
it?
haven't,
We haven't done that?
no.
Could we?
Can we?
It's not in our code currently.
It's not currently in our code, but we can take a look at that to readdress that.
Okay. 526, there were no attached pages. Just make sure that,
I do actually have, just recently got a copy of it, so if you'd like a copy,
531, there was no picture.
do we have that picture? We had requested it. John, were you able to get that picture? The rock, yeah, the
Oh, it
plaque,
looks beautiful.
yes. Okay, thank you.
533. The fifth whereas and the sixth whereas say to sell or lease. I would think that we should strike out the sell
Correct.
in both of them and just leave it as a lease.
Is the board okay?
Well,
with
that's what the statute says. It talks about both. I think it's just, what that language is, to sell or lease is, it's just following language that's set forth in Town Law 64-2.
Okay, so, I mean, we're not gonna try to sell portions of our land
No.
in those sites.
No.
Okay.
I think that reference is not to what the action is here. It's just talking about the general, statutory authority under 64-2.
Okay. 534, are we gonna charge a license fee for use of the ambulances and the personnel that are gonna be sitting there all day? There's no mention in here.
Is that under a separate contract that we do that by?
I think they're gonna have their own private
Yeah, I think.
Yeah, I think that's
personnel.
what-
They're not
What I
using it.
understand, they're not using our service.
Oh, the way I read it, it almost sounded like the town was gonna provide the 2 ambulances.
Have we ever done
I-
that? No.
We have from time to time provided ambulances for these events, but my understanding is this event, they're not looking to utilize our
Okay.
ambulance corps, they're looking to utilize their own private. I think Hunter, is the one they're looking to use.
Okay. We'll double check that application, but
535, there's no mention of food or health department approval. Is that by design? They don't plan on having any food at that family day?
this one, there's a couple questions about this one. We're actually going to table this one when we get to it. But your question was about food
And health department approval.
Certifications.
Yeah, every application where there's a vendor that's serving food or alcohol, they have to have the proper insurances, and they also have to have the off-site permit from the health department. And Laura Calamita in the town attorney's office, who manages these chapter 255s, collects that information before the event can go on.
Okay. 536, this is my favorite subject, 255s.
I know it is.
You waived the fee, but yet you approved 5 departments to pay overtime, okay? To clean up the place for security and safety, et cetera. Okay? I mean, it's ridiculous.
As I said, I don't disagree that there are a lot of things that can be reviewed for the chapter 255s, and the plan is to take them up all in September, and Laura has been working, Laura Calamita, who does, do these applications all the time, has already started to put together a package for review.
Okay. 547, the salaries are missing,
Oops.
or maybe because it's a ratification
1 second, let me get that.
versus appoints.
547?
Yeah.
That's all the seasonal stuff, seasonal recreation stuff.
Let me see, hold on a second.
It's the only one that says ratify.
We have them on ours.
Yeah, it's in here.
Okay.
You know what, there's a second page to that.
Well, I have the second page, but it just has the name, the title, the start and the end date.
You know what, it must have got
There's
cut
a
off, cause there is
column
a
with the
salary.
salaries also.
Okay.
So it's for the first one, it's, the first 2, it's 1150, and then for the, recreation leader, it's 14.
Okay. And last but not least, this refers to 542 through 556. There were 14 resolutions, 1 ratification, 13 appointments. We could have had all of that on one resolution with an attached page with name, job title, start date, end date, and hourly rate. And we would have saved paper and your time voting on
Well,
14 resolutions.
We're actually going to approve them in groups, but yes.
But why not,
We agree
They
with
come
you,
in at different
Diane.
They come in, yeah.
Diane, they come in at different times, Diane is working, we just approved, last month or so, new software that will make it much easier and able to do changing, so that is in the works, so that they can be bunched together, and then they can be approved together.
I mean, we've
also.
done it in the past, we've had lists, but it just seems strange that there were 14 single resolutions with one name on each.
And
Point taken.
I can agree with you too. And when we get an email from the town clerk saying, can we please lump these together when we vote on them? That's a rare occasion, so she agrees with you too.
All right, that's it.
Thanks, Diane,
think
for
we
doing a
all
great
said
job.
yes.
Harriet Haas, I just wanna ask one question. Can everybody hear me?
Yes, can
What-
you-
what
I just
resolution?
wonder what this, resolution 517 appoints a part-time homemaker to the seniors program. What does a part-time homemaker do?
They go to homes and they help out with, generally with elderly or disabled type people. They help with some chores and different things around the house, and I believe we get money from the county, to subsidize this program. And they're assigned out through the senior citizen, department with Judy Dahl. And they go to people's houses and help out with chores and do different things to help people.
Oh, so it's not just this one person, there's
No,
several
it's-
No, this
people that do
is
this.
just one we're replacing.
Well, how do you get one?
You can go through the senior center, we also have the senior resource guide that has, I believe, has all of that information
Yes.
on there. So before you leave, you can just check my office, they have copies of the senior resource guide, and there's other services available.
Oh, in your office?
Mhm.
The
There's one also
senior
right in the front
resource
lobby
guide.
here,
Oh,
too.
I'd like to see that. Thank you very much.
Thank you for helping advertise our senior resource guide, our senior will be very happy.
Carol Stefani and the Senior Citizens Advisory Committee did a great job on that a couple of years ago.
And they just redid it, and it's also on
Joe
our,
Packer,
our,
can't forget to mention her.
our website. The whole resource guide is also on the website.
Website.
So,
All right.
alrighty. Anybody else would like to comment? See
No.
nobody else?
Nope, I
We'll
oppose
move on
five.
to resolutions.
Resolution 514.
Street lighting department budget adjustment, purchase of a truck, so moved.
I'll second.
Moved and seconded, vote please.
Kent.
Yes.
Hubbard.
Yes.
Giglio.
Yes.
Wooten.
Yes.
Jenny Smith.
Yes.
Resolution adopted. Resolution 515.
11 West Main Street Water Capital Project Budget Adjustment, so moved.
Second,
Moved and seconded, vote please.
Kent.
Yes.
Hubbard.
Yes.
Giglio.
Yes.
Wooten.
Yes.
Jen Smith.
Yes.
Resolution adopted. Resolution 516.
amends resolution number 3, so moved.
I'll second.
Moved and seconded, vote please.
Kent.
Yes.
Hubbard.
Yes.
Giglio.
Yes.
Wooten.
Yes.
Jen Smith.
Yes.
Resolution adopted. Resolution 517.
This appoints a part-time homemaker to the seniors program. So moved.
Seconded?
Moved and seconded, vote please.
Kent.
Yes.
Hubbard.
Yes.
Giglio.
Yes.
Wooten.
Yes.
Jen Smith.
Yes.
Resolution adopted. Resolution 518.
Changes the status of an employee, so moved.
Seconded.
Moved and seconded, vote please.
Kent.
Yes.
Hubbard.
Yes.
Giglio.
Yes.
Wooten.
Yes.
Jen Smith.
Yes.
Resolution adopted. Resolution 519.
Ratifies the appointment of a seasonal traffic control officer, so moved.
Second,
Moved and seconded, vote please.
Kent.
Yes.
Hubbard.
Yes.
Giglio.
Yes.
Wooten.
Yes.
Jen Smith.
Yes.
Resolution adopted. Resolution 520.
appoints a water treatment plant operator to be, so moved.
I'll second.
Moved and seconded, vote please.
Kent.
Yes.
Hubbard.
Yes.
Giglio.
Yes.
Wooten.
Yes.
Jen Smith.
Yes.
Resolution adopted. Resolution 521.
This appoints a water treatment plant operator to be.
Seconded?
Moved and seconded, vote please.
Kent.
Yes.
Hubbard.
Yes.
Giglio.
Yes.
Wooten.
Yes.
Jen Smith.
Yes.
Resolution adopted. Resolution 522.
Appoints a clerk typist, so moved.
Seconded.
Account clerk.
No, it's
Nope.
not.
They said it was.
This is what Brad
Just a
came in and
word.
talked to us about
Okay.
last week.
This is correct.
Okay, just asking.
Okay, so we're voting again?
Moved and seconded, vote.
Okay, Kent.
And I welcome Indira on board, and I vote yes.
Hubbard.
Yes.
Giglio.
Yes,
Wooten.
I
Resolution 523.
Assume lead agency status pursuant to the State Environmental Quality Review Act, SECRA, for a special permit and site plan application known as 1535 Route 58 LLC, located at 1535 Old Country Road, Suffolk County Tax Member, map number 600-101-2-12.6, Riverhead, New York. I just have a question with this. When we talked about it last time, they had removed the restaurant part and some of the office space out of this. So this is coming back to us again, showing something very different,
Yeah.
showing the original.
It's supposed to be revised.
They haven't actually
Right, this
changed
hasn't
the
been
application,
revised, I
but.
don't think.
Sorry, my leg fell asleep. Good afternoon again. We have a letter from Charles Cuddy, the attorney for the applicant, saying they are withdrawing the restaurant portion of the site, of the application, and also the retail component of the application, leaving just the car wash. We have yet to see a site plan, though, that shows that. So, in this resolution, all this does is that, has nothing to do with the site plan application, has to do with SECRA, is that you're assuming the lead agency for the rest of the environmental review of the application. That's all it does. So all the questions that you have,
Shouldn't it be corrected
I
though,
think
as
so.
I would rather, if I'm gonna vote on a resolution, I'd rather vote on a correct resolution of what it properly should be.
Well,
But
it's
this
just assuming.
this
lead
is still,
agency.
this,
I understand,
wish they
it's
could-
assuming
they could
lead
just take that
agency,
first
but
whereas right out of
I'm
it.
assuming lead agency on something that's not necessarily true. I have an issue with that. I would like to see it corrected,
that's fine, we can do.
okay?
So would you like to take?
I would like to table, make a motion to table this.
Or we could just simply take a look. Is the concern
can
just
amend it
with,
now.
I'll second the motion to table, until we get a formal application, other than just a letter from the attorney saying that he's withdrawing the other uses on the site. You know, we really need to make sure that we're moving forward with SECRA on the application, and I see this resolution as being moot, so I would even, you know, table it or withdraw it until it's determined actually what it is that they're trying to build there.
we can do
My,
that.
my question is, us, by tabling this, I mean, is there any urgency with us grabbing lead agency at this point in the process? Is it, it's not gonna stall their application or anything?
It really doesn't.
Okay,
Um,
so it's like, okay.
Really, the ball's in their court to come back to us
Right.
with the revisions as they indicated in their
So
letter to us.
this really isn't timely or anything, it's just,
No.
all right,
So we're gonna withdraw it?
Motion to table it.
Okay, can I have a second?
I'll second.
A first and second to table resolution 523?
Kent,
Yes.
Hubbard,
Yes.
Giglio,
Okay, yes.
Wooten,
Yes.
Jen Smith.
Yes.
Resolution 523 is tabled. Resolution 524.
Authorizes the town clerk to publish and post a notice for a public hearing on a special permit application for Jamesport Vineyard Bistro Edition. So moved.
I'll second.
Moved and seconded, vote please.
Kent,
Yes.
Hubbard,
Even though it's not on the code right now, I would like to see them pay for it having to be reposted and republished. I think that would be a fair thing for the applicant to do, since the onus was on them to post it and they didn't do it. The town should not have to be furthered with the expense, but I will vote yes for the resolution.
Giglio,
Yes.
Wooten,
And we'll get it back. Yes.
Jen Smith.
Yes.
Resolution adopted. Resolution 525.
This authorizes the release of a site plan security of new Riverhead Realty Holdings for 1044 Parkway Street. So moved.
Seconded?
Moved and seconded, vote please.
Kent,
Yes.
Hubbard,
Yes.
Giglio.
Yes.
Wooten,
Yes.
Jen Smith.
Yes.
Resolution adopted. Resolution 526.
Awards bid for janitorial supplies. So moved.
Seconded.
Moved and seconded, vote please.
Kent,
Yes.
Hubbard,
Yes.
Giglio.
Yes.
Wooten,
Yes.
Jen Smith.
Yes.
Resolution adopted. Resolution 527.
First responder vehicle for use by the ambulance district. So moved.
Second.
Moved and seconded, vote please.
Kent,
Yes.
Hubbard,
Yes.
Giglio.
Yes.
Wooten,
Yes.
Jen Smith.
Yes.
Resolution adopted. Resolution 528.
Authorization to publish advertisement for traffic signal repair and maintenance for the town of Riverhead. So moved.
I'll second.
Moved and seconded, vote please.
Kent,
Yes.
Hubbard,
Yes.
Giglio.
Yes.
Wooten,
Yes.
Jen Smith.
Yes.
Resolution adopted. Resolution 529.
Authorizes the supervisor to execute a stipulation of agreement with the Riverhead Town Superior Officers Association Incorporated. So moved.
Seconded?
Moved and seconded, vote please.
Kent,
Yes.
Hubbard,
Yes.
Giglio,
I'm happy that this is finally getting done and that the, terms of the contract are something that we had discussed, several of them last year when the new supervisor won the election, and we've had several meetings since, so I congratulate the board and the SOA on reaching an agreement on the contract, yes.
Wooten,
Depends. Does the chief get a raise on this thing?
No.
No? Okay, yes.
He's not an SOA member.
Jen Smith,
I have to say that the Superior Officers
Holy kidding.
Association has worked very hard on this. I've met, Tim Hubbard has worked hard on this. I'm very happy that we've come to an agreement and, looking forward not to doing it for a couple years.
And a very fair agreement, I might
Yeah,
add, for both
very fair
sides.
agreement for both sides, absolutely.
that's a yes.
Yes, that's a yes. Very
Resol-
happy, yes.
Resolution adopted. Resolution 530.
So,
That one.
for resolution 530, I'd like to make a motion to withdraw resolution 530.
I'll second.
Moved and seconded, vote please.
Kent,
Yes.
Hubbard,
Yes.
Giglio,
Yes.
Wooten,
Yes.
Jen Smith.
Yes.
Resolution 530 is withdrawn. Resolution 531.
Authorizes placement of a commemorative plaque, nunc pro tunc, honoring a resident for exemplary contributions and commitment to the community. So moved.
Second.
Moved and seconded, vote please.
Kent,
And once again, happy birthday to Helen Duryea, and kudos to her for all of her community work. I vote yes.
Hubbard,
Ditto to Catherine, yes.
Giglio,
And unfortunately, I wasn't there for the plaque placement, but I have seen it since. I was busy with family duties on that morning, but I want to thank her for all that she does for the Jamesport community in the area and painting the gazebo, and now she's talking about her next project, which would be painting the top of the gazebo gold, I think it was. So she's been talking about that for a
Not
few
the
years. So
gazebo,
The
So-
cupola.
the
the globe,
cupola.
the cupola,
Yes,
sorry,
Ms. Laferno
not
got
the
that,
gazebo, the
cupola.
cupola. So, anyway, thank her, she's a great community member, and we appreciate everything she does, yes.
Wooten,
One. Oh, yes.
Jen Smith.
And thank you to Ms. Duryea, so yes.
Resolution adopted. Resolution 532.
Authorizes sewer district superintendent to attend a 2018 Water Environment Federation Conference, so moved.
A second.
Moved and seconded, vote please.
Kent,
Yes.
Hubbard,
Yes.
Giglio,
Yes.
Wooten,
Yes.
Jen Smith.
Yes.
Resolution adopted. Resolution 533.
This declares a portion of the town property surplus and authorizes town clerk to publish and post a notice for requests for proposals for placement of communication cellular towers on town property. Sewer district, yard waste facility, Osborne Avenue Highway Yard, and Wading River Highway Yard. So moved.
Seconded.
Moved and seconded, vote please.
Kent,
Yes.
Hubbard,
Yes.
Giglio,
Yeah, we've done this in the past, and we have awarded the proposal to an applicant, and the towers were never built for whatever reason, so we're putting it out again, and I'll vote yes.
Wooten,
No.
Jen Smith.
Yes.
Resolution adopted. Resolution 534.
Approves Chapter 255 application of Rugged Races LLC 5K obstacle course entitled Rugged Maniac, Saturday, July 21st, 2018. So moved.
I will second.
Moved and seconded, vote please.
Kent,
Yes.
Hubbard,
Yeah, they finally have received their, final site plan approval, thank goodness. And they seem to be cooperating now with the town in a better fashion, so yes, I will support this.
Giglio,
Yes.
Wooten,
Yes.
Jen Smith.
Yes.
Resolution adopted. Resolution 535.
For resolution 535, this is an approval for the chapter 255 application of the Church of the Harvest Family Fun Day, Saturday, August 25th, 2018. There is just some questions about this because they're locating in the back of, the parking lot, during a Saturday afternoon. I think, Mr. Hubbard is going to check with the parking district,
With the bid.
with the bid and the parking district about this first before we move forward with this. So I would ask a first and second to table this till we have our questions answered.
Motion to table.
I'll second.
First and seconded, vote please.
Kent,
Yes to table.
Hubbard,
Yes.
Giglio,
Yes.
Wooten,
I don't mind agreeing to table it, but this is something that's been going on for years, so this is not the first application for this, they do it every year, but yes, yes to table.
Jen Smith.
Yes, and I did speak to them, they actually haven't run it in a couple years, and we had.
It's on East End Arts property.
Right, and then they haven't had it in a couple years, and we've actually asked them if they might be interested in Grangeville Park or another location, so as to not close off the parking lot. So that's why we'll table it till we get some full answers, and then, but we certainly don't wanna stymie having it, but just, as I said, just to have some questions, answered about it first.
Resolution 535 is tabled. Resolution 536.
Approves chapter 255 application of Jamesport Fire Department to conduct a Fireman's Carnival, July 17th through July 21st. So moved.
I'll second.
Moved and seconded, vote please.
Kent.
Yes.
Hubbard.
Yes.
Giglio.
Yes, and they do a lot of work themselves when it comes to the cleaning up and keeping the grounds clean and the streets clean. So we appreciate Jamesport Fire Department, and it's a great carnival, so yes.
Wooten.
Looking forward to go there. Yes.
Jen Smith.
Yes.
Resolution adopted. Resolution 537.
537 authorizes the town supervisor to execute an amendment to the professional services agreement with Lawrence M. Levy. So moved.
Seconded?
Moved and seconded, vote please.
Kent.
Yes.
Hubbard.
Yes.
Giglio.
He's here and he's gone, he's here and he's gone, and now he's got a better contract. Yes.
Wooten.
Yes.
Jen Smith.
Yes.
Resolution adopted.
Woo, didn't say
Resolution
anything.
538.
Who said yes for Woo?
Authorizes the supervisor to issue a letter to the Suffolk County Department of Health Services allowing the use of Pine Barrens credits that originated from property located in Riverhead, Rocky Point Fire Department. So moved.
I'll second it.
Moved and seconded, vote please.
Kent.
Yes.
Hubbard.
Yes.
Giglio.
Yeah, this is a credit coming from the Boy Scout camp, yes.
Wooten.
Yes.
Jen Smith.
Yes.
Resolution adopted. Resolution 539.
Approve stipulation in the legal action by the town of Riverhead against Spading Hollow Farms LLC et al. And authorizes the execution of the stipulation by the supervisor. So moved.
Second,
Moved and seconded, vote please.
Kent.
Yes.
Hubbard.
Yes.
Giglio.
no.
Wooten.
Yes.
Jen Smith.
Yes.
Resolution adopted. Resolution 540.
Authorizes the supervisor to execute a renewal agreement with Next Hero One LLC DBA Black Box Network Services regarding telephone maintenance. So moved.
I'll second.
Moved and seconded, vote please.
Kent.
Yes.
Hubbard.
Yes.
Giglio.
And hopefully, as soon as we get our new phone system, which Councilman Wooten has been working on so
Waiting for a check to be cut, everything else is signed,
diligently.
they won't cut the check, it's killing me.
this won't be an added expense to have in our budget every year to maintain this antiquated phone system that we have, so.
Well,
we're
this
looking at-
contract is only for 60 days, I believe, at the
No,
time.
it's for 6 months, but
Oh,
with
it's
a
6 months.
60-day cancellation.
With a 60-day cancellation. Good.
So, I wanna
And
thank
we're looking
Councilman
at
Wooten and,
Right.
Well, I
think,
can tell you, let's see, July, August, September, this is a three-month
Three-month contract,
extension
yeah.
for $10,000.
No, 6-month extension.
No, it's July first, two
It
thousand
should
eighteen
be, it
to
should be a
September
6-month,
thirty.
if it says 3, it should be 6 months.
So what month do you want it till?
It's December 31, but
So
we have
it's
a, we have a 60-day cancellation in it.
Okay, so then we have to revote
Amend
this.
the
It says 90, should say,
It's,
July first to September
it
30th.
says, the first whereas, the town has agreed upon the further renewal agreement for a term July first, 2018 to September 30th, 2018. So,
that's a mistake, that should be to December
Okay.
31. The professional services agreement attached, I went back and forth with them, that where it should be December 31.
Okay,
I'm sorry.
so I've started the vote already, so how do I have to ask to table the one we're voting on, table that, and then re-vote on this as amended? How do I do this?
Just amend it.
Let's just
Right,
amend
but
it.
you got-
I think we can amend it,
Just
'cause
amend it
we're
and roll
still,
call again,
I
that's
think
all.
So-
you can amend it and then have a vote on it.
What do you do with the call already on the other resolution?
I wish to amend resolution number 540, that the roll call already started as to the votes, because there's an error in the text that this is supposed to be extended out for 6 months from July 1st, 2018 until December 31st, 2018. So that is the change, that the.
But Bob,
And just so that you, to further clarify, the agreement that's attached does state that, so this is clearly a scrivener's error, and I don't see a problem with making the motion to amend.
So
Okay,
make the
even-
motion to amend the resolution so that it is in accordance with the agreement that is attached here too.
Correct.
Bob, we already have 3 votes for the unamended
And what you're
resolution.
gonna do is now have a vote on, I mean, I know you're in the middle of vote.
But that's what I'm saying, how do we get rid of that vote we already have? We already have 3 votes for this unamended resolution.
You going to, just, take up a new vote. The prior vote is now considered a nullity, and you're going to proceed that by the amendment.
All right, do we have to vote to annul the previous
I
vote?
don't think so.
No, okay.
I think there's clarity, the record's gonna reflect what happened.
So
Okay.
just call resolution 540 again.
Correct.
Okay,
And,
yes,
With amendment.
yes.
I mean, I could have corrected it before that.
All right, so Jim, do you wanna second that as amended with 540?
Yes.
Okay. So moved and seconded, vote please?
Kent,
Yes.
Hubbard,
Yes is amended.
Giglio,
Yes is amended to make the term 6 months.
Wooten,
Don't change your mind now, just
You know what, I like black box, but you know what, I want to be so far past them by now.
Patience, Jim, patience.
Oh, God, it's just a waste of money.
It's a big,
It'll be worth it in the long run.
it's
I
a
don't
big
think we need 'em.
move over.
But, I'll vote yes.
We do till the move
Jen
over
Smith,
happens.
Yes,
resolution adopted. Resolution 541.
It's like car insurance, they pay for car insurance. All right, approves participation in Peconic Land Trust grant application, so moved.
Seconded?
moved and seconded, vote please?
Kent,
Yes.
Hubbard,
Yes.
Giglio,
Yes.
Wooten,
Yes.
Jen Smith.
Yes.
Resolution adopted.
Here we
Resolution
go.
542.
Okay, I'm just gonna, if we could take these out of order, can we do 552 first to pay the bills and then go back and do the group together? So if we could take them out of order, do resolution 542,
552.
552, sorry. 552 to pay bills,
All right, resolution 552.
Let me get up to it.
Oh, it's an easy one.
this is yours, Jim.
Oh, make a motion to pay the bills, so moved.
And Jim, this is you to second.
Need a second? All right, I'll second, pay bills.
All right, moved and seconded, vote please on resolution 542, which is pay bills.
552.
552, I don't know why I keep saying that, sorry.
Kent,
Yes.
Hubbard,
Yes.
Giglio,
Yes.
Wooten.
I haven't read them yet.
Oh,
Yes.
Jen Smith.
Yes.
Resolution 552 is adopted. And we'll go back to resolution.
Okay, so this is approval for resolutions 542 through 551, and 553 through 556, which appoints, recreation personnel.
So move on the blanket.
Seconded?
Moved and seconded, vote please?
Kent,
Yes.
Hubbard,
Yes.
Giglio,
Yes.
Wooten,
Yes.
Jen Smith.
Yes.
Resolutions 542 through 551, and resolutions 553 through 556 are adopted.
Thank God. And we have one off the floor too, right?
Yes.
I'd like to take resolution 557 off the floor, which authorizes the town clerk to publish and post a public notice for public information and a comment hearing period regarding discontinuance and abandonment of the terminus, approximately 2,183 feet, plus or minus, of bisecting land owned by the county of Suffolk Riverside Drive, Riverhead, New York. So I make a motion to take this off the floor. So moved.
Seconded? To take it off the floor?
Moved and seconded, vote please?
Kent,
Yes.
Hubbard,
Yeah, this is something the county's tried to do in the past, and it's the end of Riverside Drive that most people don't even know it as Riverside Drive. It's once you enter onto the property of the Suffolk County Golf Course, and just before you would turn into, go where the clubhouse would be, if you went straight, there's a broken paved road that is actually a town part of Riverside Drive.
Right.
So in order to keep people from going down there late at night, there's really no need for any, it's a dead-end terminus.
Pretty down there.
Yeah, the chief would like that, so, right? People can't go down there and hang out.
I remember
The
well
golf
when I
course
was
is gonna rip up or the county's gonna rip up the blacktop, plant it over with seed and grass, and it's also a safety issue for the golfers down there, so I definitely vote yes for this.
Let's just take it off the floor, that's all.
Giglio,
I'm going
just
to
wanted to
abstain
explain
because
it
my
to the
husband has
public.
an interest.
Wooten,
What? I made the motion to take it off the floor, and Hubbard was seconding it, so, yes.
No, Catherine voted yes, I voted yes.
We're voting to
It's a
take it
vote.
off the floor, so
Oh,
just,
well, I mean,
yes,
all right,
just
yes.
take it off the floor, and
You missed it.
I
yes,
was so confused.
yes for me to take it off the floor. And then now,
yes,
Jim,
and
for you.
yes, and resolution 557 is taken off the floor.
Okay, now you,
Now we'll just move it.
Yes.
What I said. authorizes you to, town clerk, to publish and post a public notice for public information and comment hearing regarding discontinuance and abandonment of the terminus, approximately 2,183 feet plus or minus, bisecting land owned by the county of Suffolk, Riverside Drive, Riverhead, New York. So moved.
Seconded,
Moved and seconded, vote please.
Hint,
yes.
Hubbard,
Yes.
Giglio,
I'm going to recuse because my husband has an interest.
Wooten,
Yes.
Jen Smith.
Yes.
Resolution adopted.
There's no money consideration.
That is all of the resolutions, so at this time, I ask anybody from the public that would like to come up and address the board on any items to please come forward.
Again, Warren McKnight from Riverhead. A reference to the Riverhead Railroad train station.
Yes, ma'am.
I noticed that the benches were removed from the front, which is good, it's out of the sun and it's away from traffic. One is over on the side in the shade. The benches, you know, took 5 years to get from the town, not complaining, but it's there. Where is the other bench?
In my backyard.
The
Only kidding.
it was the
It's a good bench.
The MTA, that's the MTA property, the MTA was the one that moved them. We are working with Suffolk County to move the bus station further down, from the train station and then place several shelters over there. So there'll be additional seating for the buses,
Good.
over there at that time.
They
Good.
wanna put them behind the plexiglass type shelters.
That's good,
Where they're
and
gonna go.
I understand there's you're getting a fence too to keep people from walking onto the tracks, making more difficult the tracks, and,
There's no plan at this time to add more fencing
Fencing,
over
okay.
there. I think what the MTA has done is they've put out an RFP, for anybody who might be interested in renting or utilizing the train station for a place of business. So I think until that RFP goes out and there's responses for that, I don't think that they've decided to put up to block off anything at this point.
okay. Also, it might be a good idea, I don't know, this is a suggestion on my part, that we have bilingual signs there about littering, you know, because of the high concentration of, you know, Polish
I got it.
and Hispanic and regular people. You know, I shouldn't say regular people, but people who speak English.
Right.
Who go there, yes. And well, basically, that's all I have to say on that, and good luck for the volunteers that are going down on the 28th.
Thank you.
Thanks, Warren.
Well, you could be there playing music for us, right? You could strum away as we're,
Depending how hot or
whistle while you work or something.
We'll give
how
you a
hot it
shaded
is. I'll
area.
sit in the bench
I
under the
worked on
shade.
the railroad,
Or
it was all
find the other
places.
bench.
Is there anyone else who would like to comment on anything? Seeing nobody, can I have a first and second to close today's town board meeting?
So moved.
Seconded.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? And
you know,
everyone,
only
please
a
have a
kid,
happy
right?
4th and safe 4th.